For our 14th episode, I sit down with Lisa Ann Santin of Last Wardrobe. Lisa is a wardrobe coach and collaborates with her clients to help them identify stylish and empowering outfits they already have in their closets. Pre-COVID, the work revolved around her ability to get into a client's closet and shake things up. Needless to say, COVID changed everything. Since COVID, she's gone online and hired a support team of consultants to help her navigate the new virtual world where once hands-on and in-person services now needed to be offered online. She shares with us a bit of this journey and how important it is to communicate via the clothes you wear. This episode was recorded in person with Lisa on her back patio, so you may hear some birds and other ambient sounds. While it's warm and when it's possible to observe and maintain social distance norms, recording in person will always be preferred. I'm Jarrett Carpenter, and this is Wi-Fi Water. Lisa, welcome to Wi-Fi Water.
Thanks for having me.
The tables have turned.
Yes. Remember when you were on my podcast?
I do remember when I was on your podcast. Shout out Jay Foss.
Jay Foss,
Jay
podcast
Foss.
Producer extraordinaire.
Extraordinaire.
He also has a new show
He
on
does have a
Sunday
new show.
nights.
And you were just on it.
And you need to be on it.
I'd love to be on it. And if I want to listen to this show with you and Jay, how do I do that?
Jay set it up to become a podcast after it airs
So
live.
he records? Okay.
Yep, so it's Finding Your Voice. Jay Foss, Google that.
Okay.
Finding Your Inner Voice.
Finding your inner voice.
Sorry. Got to do right by Jay. Finding Your Inner Voice. And he's trying to really generate community. Get people in the community. Because it's a very local radio station that he initially lives from.
Yeah.
Which he works at. It's North Shore 104.9. And then his podcast will be able to be listened to, because then he transfers that show into a podcast. But he's really trying to get local voices, regular people voicing what's going on for them during this time. And I think he wants to be on the right side of history. So he's kind of doing this because historically, even in a year from now when we look back, what conversations did we have? How did we change the course of conversation? And he tries not to get super, super political or super, controversial, but more about community.
As a host, that I think is ideally what you're supposed to do. Ask questions to keep things, let your guest maybe be on different ends of whatever spectrum. If you're talking about politics, maybe right or left. If you're talking about sports, like Yankees or Red Sox.
Right. It's hard not to have.
Yeah, because even in the questioning as a host, sometimes I ask questions and I know that there's an implicit push of where I'm trying to lead, which is, I think good hosts do that, but I don't know.
I mean, our show was about businesses pivoting because of COVID, and he had 3 guests on with very different businesses. So we didn't have to that particular topic didn't get super political, but
yeah. Well, that's kind of the topic that we're going to talk about today.
Interestingly enough.
The perfect segue.
Into that.
Yeah, post-production will add like a doo-doo-doo. That's why, you have a business model that is all about you getting into women's closets and saying what works for you, what doesn't work for you, and how can we really take what you have in your closet and make it work for you so you don't go out and shop. And if you do go out and shop, you ask people to go out and ethically shop. Think about where they're buying their threads, push people to shop more local. And so how has that changed? When I say how has that changed, I mean, I know it's flipped on its head because we've talked about this, but...
And it's so loaded, your question, because for full transparency to our audience, I was doing okay, but I was not super successful because the model I had, people couldn't get their head around it. They were in a mode of, when I want something, I buy it and I spend money. And every season, with females particularly, I hate to be gendered, but it is more true about females. They want the trends. They want the new...
And you specifically work with women,
right.
So it's not... Okay.
But a man isn't going to say most often, oh, I need a new tie because it's March and it's spring. So this is a gendered thing. Women want that fresh, new, trendy item every season, every time there's a drop, quote unquote. So I was...
A drop.
Yeah, a drop. Of
Insiders, look up a drop.
So Jared, because we've worked together, I'll be transparent about that in a second, but I was like, I had a message that I was, talking to people who weren't really ready to hear the message yet. So I think because of COVID, people's ears are tuned in a little differently to where they're going to be able to put their money, and their spending habits and their buying patterns are going to change, mostly because the economy is changing and their resources are going to be less. But also, this is no industry secret. Stores don't have anything in it right now because supply chain is completely broken.
Right, because it's so globalized. I haven't been to the mall. So my question was going to be, what do you mean by stores are empty?
Oh,
this is inspiring me to go to the mall, put my mask on.
Yeah,
go
it's a
listen
situation
to your
out
podcast
there.
with Jay Foss, and then just walk through the mall. Listen, but it's a sitch.
So a couple of things that happen, so you and I know a lot about this because of your former company.
Yep.
Your T-shirt company.
Yep.
So fast fashion produces on a cycle that is unsustainable in countries where it's unsustainable. And so we don't want to make this a Debbie Downer podcast, but if you're really interested in that, there's a movie called The True Cost. So your listeners can go watch that movie and put this in context. So scramble. Everybody's trying to get product out there in the fast fashion model all the time, every couple weeks.
Yeah, I mean, I think in that it was Elizabeth Klein who has the book. I'm blanking the name of the book, but she's an ethical fashion writer, blogger. You can look her up as well.
She's very good.
I believe she says we live in a world with 52 seasons.
Correct.
And that line stuck with me because I was like, oh my God. It's so true, though. And I don't know if you know this, but out of college, before I went to the Peace Corps, I came home for the summer and I worked at Zara.
Yes, you told me this, and your eyes were opened wide.
I was so wide, and I just saw... Zara was fascinating because it's owned by the Spanish company.
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember the name of the Spanish company, but they also own Bershka,
yes,
Pull & Bear. I think it's Digitex maybe. But this Spanish company owns these things, and that was like me seeing behind the curtain of fast fashion and see how every single week, oh, we have a new line. Oh, we have a new this.
A new drop.
A new drop. And it was insane.
Yes.
It was insane. I mean... I'm obviously on the other side of the spectrum where I'm a minimalist and I try to, I'll wear a t-shirt with holes in it until it's no longer okay, and then it turns into a rag.
Right.
Whereas I saw consumers, especially who would come into Zara, and they would buy a t-shirt, and they would get a t-shirt like every week. They would come in and drop $35.
Because they're only wearing it once or twice.
They're going to the club, they're going to the bar, they look good.
Yes.
And then I don't know if they Goodwill it, doesn't matter. They're just, that consumption cycle is heavy.
And, excuse me, allergies. Just so that everyone knows, it's allergies. So now let's step through what happened that we didn't even know was happening. So maybe December, stuff is going on out in the world. COVID is starting to move.
In Wuhan, late December, cases were starting to pop up.
Now,
that doctor identifies them. He says, hey, this is happening.
Yep.
China says it's not happening because they want to keep that quelled.
Now, most of your clothes are being made in China, Vietnam, Bangladesh, India,
Nepal, Cambodia,
yes,
right? Southeast Asia. Yeah.
So now, all of a sudden, China can't move. They can't go to the factories. People can't work. It's madness and mayhem. All of a sudden, the supply chain starts to break. Then what was on a ship to get over here? I don't even know how the port structure system worked. I didn't really follow that at the time.
Yeah.
So your ports of entry for your product would be San Francisco, New York. Do I need to say anything more? We know what that was like in the early months. They were the two hot spots.
Hardest hit in late February,
so
March, April.
I don't think stuff was coming through customs getting through that port. So there were probably many, many shipments delayed, stopped. So it's almost like a museum. It's almost like Pompeii. Everything in retail stopped that day that they closed things down. So in Massachusetts, I believe it was like the 15th or the 17th of March. So boom, everything shuts down. And it's like frozen in time. And when they just reopened recently, they're sitting on all this product from that time frame.
They must have crazy backorder.
Oh,
well, not backorder, but
all this backstock that they don't have anything to do with.
Thank you.
the sales that would normally go on and the new spring stuff and summer stuff. So everything's disrupted. Then it gets even worse because manufacturers that had orders out stopped their orders. So the few factories that needed to be open in these faraway countries so that their employees could still work, if that was possible, the orders got cut. No one was going to pay for the order or make the order. They just stopped the order. So now you've got a total disruption there.
So you're saying if I go to the mall and I go to, I think in our local North Shore Mall, the biggest store that's fast fashion is probably Forever 21, then followed by H&M.
Yep. I would be very curious what you would see in there.
I'll have to go.
I haven't gone yet.
I'll go and take a video and I'll post it to the Wi-Fi Water Instagram and Facebook. Because that's fascinating to me because, if we had 52 seasons a year and every week you're getting a whole new drop, which is going to change the way the floor looks.
You didn't get anything for 3 months.
You have 12 to 16 weeks of nothing. How does that look?
And where are those pieces and what's going on in the factories? I haven't stopped to really delve into it, but Elizabeth Klein, whom you mentioned, is calling out companies by name who have missed their orders and will not pay for them. Really? She is calling them out in the media.
So we take all that, and now we look at your business of helping women to really identify themselves through the clothes that they already own, not feeling this consumeristic push to go buy more.
And now that they can't, Jarrett, maybe they're going to actually resonate with my messaging finally.
But now you are not as able to get in their closets because we're in a global pandemic.
Right.
So how has that changed the business model, and where are you taking that forward?
Great question.
And normally I think the question is, where do you want to be in 5 years? But in COVID times, it's where do you want to be in 3 months? Next week, 3 months. So
how are you going to survive?
So what does the rest of the year look like, and what is it now? I know you've been doing Zoom calls. Talk to me about what does that look like?
So I just want to say to our audience, again, for transparency, so Jarrett is my guy with Impact 90, his business, to really help me with my website presence because I can barely log on and make a change grammatically. I really rely on him, and that's going to set up the story here. I am probably old enough to be Jarrett's mom, although we have a great relationship. I'm probably that much older than him, and I'm just not proficient in technology. And so pre-COVID, I was I'm all about the white glove service. I'm a high-touch, personalized service provider. I don't need technology. I don't want technology. That's the whole secret sauce of Lisa. Well, okay, now I can't touch anybody. I can't touch anything. I can't be in anyone's home. So I had to very quickly, within weeks of this, I had to have a come to Jesus moment and say, all right, I need to embrace technology. Am I ever going to be Jarrett? No. And because I need Jarrett, I have him on retainer now, and this is where the blessings come in. So COVID is not all gloom and doom, folks. So I'll tell you my story. I spent the first chunk, maybe 6 weeks, on every Zoom call I could get on about the PPP, the government intervention, the CARES Act. How do you apply for one of these loans? Well, it became very, very apparent very quickly that the only people that could really effectively apply for those loans had to have a certain disciplined system of their finances. They had to have a commercial banking relationship that was solid. There were things that I just didn't have as a sole proprietor.
There's just too many barriers to entry.
Too many. I was lucky, though, all of that information and that data that I kind of curated, I was able to turn it over to my stepson in Ohio, and he has a different business model than I do. He was able to execute on it. He got a loan that saved his business. So, amen, I didn't do it in vain. But quickly I realized for me, the best I could hope for was an unemployment claim on the new side of unemployment that the state needed to develop that wasn't even developed yet. And I think they have pandemic unemployment insurance is the name of it. And it was going to be also federally funded, as we know. The $600 was going to come from the federal government and whatever your portion from the state. So I applied for that, Jarrett, not thinking in a million years I'm going to get it because my my 3 years in business so far, I've been running at a loss because I've been building my business.
Right.
So I put everything in, and I got approved. And I happen to have a spouse who's very supportive of my business, and we sat down very intentionally and had a conversation about what was going to happen to that money. So we were going to figure out where the tax implication was so that we would make sure we earmarked dollars to return it back to the government, of course.
Right.
How ironic. And then I had a portion left, and we said, we're going to put this into the local economy. So the first check I think I wrote was a retainer check to Jarrett Carpenter for all of my web needs, because we were going to be making changes very quickly as I figured out how this business was going to go totally onto Zoom.
Right, because all of a sudden the brand is going to take a 180.
Right, and Zoom is going to be the delivery. And we're going to online shop if we need to shop for those few pieces that might be the gap, the big gap.
Right.
Sometimes you do have to buy a couple things,
The
but we're not going to
pieces.
stores. Right, the great key pieces. We're not going into stores, so everything is going to be done virtually. Telephone, email, Pinterest application, using that for visual prompts so I can understand when they say a jacket what they mean versus when I say a jacket. We can use that visual language, using my website better. So all of a sudden now I identify vendors I need help. I can't do this by myself. So I hire a strategic thinker, a consultant. Her name is Angelica with Get Up Consulting, and she puts me on a plan for 3 months to basically break my business model down and my brand and rebuild it for the new COVID world. I've got you on retainer. You put me in touch with a virtual assistant. I get her on board. She has local ties, but she resides in California. We start using her to really beef up my Instagram presence. So all of a sudden, a person who doesn't use technology, my whole business is based now on these technology tools.
And I think we spoke about this before we pressed record on this podcast, but the interesting thing is it used to be in a world of the pre-COVID world, which was a world where you could get together with people. You didn't have technology. Now, as you isolate, you actually become more connected via technology, which it's not like too crazy, but for me, it's like, I'm so glad that you as a small business owner have said to yourself, you know what, I don't know, and it's going to take too much time for me to figure out, so I'm going to hire people who already know. And I think that is something many business owners, and I know because I work with many business owners.
They're not willing or able to do.
They're not willing, and a lot of it is just ego-driven.
A lot of it's ego-driven.
Because it's control.
And control.
It's control.
Yep.
And I think when you let go and you let other people like Angelica and Courtney come to help the last brand, I think it's only adding tremendous value.
Oh, I'm learning so much, and I feel like I have a community now. Even though we're virtual, I can't reach out and touch them. We are communicating. We are in communication. We're co-collaborating. We're co-creating this new branding. Meanwhile, while that's going on, I actually have several people who wanted to try the Zoom version of my service, and they are liking it. They've even said, well, it kind of gives me one layer of protection, if you will, against feeling vulnerable. Because when you're in my closet and you're in my home, you're right there. This, right. I can position my laptop so that you only see what I want you to see. I'm not feeling as vulnerable. So several of them have said, I like this better.
I think letting someone in your closet is definitely a vulnerability. Because I couldn't imagine if someone went into my closet and just started poking around. It would make me feel uncomfortable. Not that I'm worried, like there's skeletons in my closet or something.
It's a very intimate space. It's someone coming to your home and then going into your bedroom and then going into your dressing closet. It's intimate. So this has given them sort of a little bit more control. They show me what they want to show me. They move the camera around to where they're comfortable.
And how has the process been? Like, from your perspective...
I can deliver like 90%.
You can deliver 90%?
Yeah, the 10 that I can't deliver is I can't feel it. So sometimes I would just say to the person, okay, let me have the blouse. And they would pass it to me so that I can feel it.
Feel the fabric.
I can feel the fabric. Right. Mainly for the weight of it, how it's going to drape. And then sometimes I would step out of the room and have them put it on. So that I can't feel materials. That's tough. But I have them just reading me the tags now. And I know enough about material that once they read me the inside
70%
hang tag,
cotton, 20% polyester, 10% spandex, you know exactly how the feel is.
And I might ask them, please go somewhere and try it on and then come back. I'm fine. I can wait the 5 minutes. And they'll actually put it on and come back. And then I can, that's another piece I can integrate into, okay, they said it was rayon spandex. I thought it was going to be too tight. They just put it on. It is too tight. Now I'm going to recommend that they donate that piece. So that works a little slower than if I'm right in the moment, right in your...
Right. And let me turn around, throw that on. 10 seconds later, okay, that doesn't fit.
Right.
You said it didn't fit. Let's figure out where we're going to move that on to, transition that to.
So what I've done to accommodate for that is normally a closet refresh for a season would be a 2-hour in-person service. So now I break that up. We do about an hour one time. We take about a week break. We come back and we do the next hour. Because Zoom is a different kind of using your eyes differently, your ears, your vision. It is different. So it's more tiring. So we have to kind of break up the session into 2 smaller sessions.
I've been spending some serious time on Zoom recently, and it's tiring.
Yeah, it's a fatiguing.
And I wonder if it's, I've never heard the way you broke it down right there using your eyes, but I wonder if it's because we as humans have 5 senses, right? Touch, smell, hearing, taste, and sight, right? Touch, smell, hearing, taste, and sight. But when we're on Zoom, we're literally just using seeing and hearing.
Yeah, and
we
seeing,
can't smell,
you're not
we
even...
can't touch, we can't taste. Not that you're going to go lick someone's
right,
shirt, but the idea
of that all-encompassing, when you're in someone's space, you're fully engaged. Now you've only got 2 of your senses activated.
You've got 2 of your senses, and it's a 2D thing. It's not a 3D, so you really
can't
have to
look
focus.
at somebody. You have to focus.
And your eyesight gets, okay, that makes sense.
So I had a lawyer recently. I did multiple sessions with her because I have a free 30-minute session that everyone can get. No obligation, no guilt if we don't move forward. So we did that together. Then we started with the 1 hour, and then we took a couple weeks break because she was busy. She was a lawyer. We came back in, dropped in for the second. And I said to her, the only thing I'm nervous about, and I'm almost 100% sure, is you didn't try on all the outfits for me. Because we made like 8 new outfits from what she already owned. So I said, so I'm going to rely on you to put them on, wear them one day, see how you feel, and take a photo for me so that I can then come back and tweak it. So
when a customer takes a photo, what's the medium? Does she then DM it to you on Instagram?
Yeah, or she can text it to me. Yeah, and I can just see that I've lined up everything right. So we did her 8 outfits. We lined them up. She held them up. I pulled, go over there and get that scarf and put that on. So I'm 90% sure I'm accurate, but I'm not in front of her. So there's that 10% that she now needs to take that extra step to write down a few sentences about how it felt when she wore it and have like her spouse just take a quick picture in the morning or at the end of the day. Right. So I'll see it on her body. So
because normally you would do that.
Yeah, I'd be right there.
Okay,
she'd be throwing on the 8 outfits and I'd be tweaking and making sure. So, overall, because I don't want to get too detailed into the process because people don't want to really know about that, but making an intentional strategy that you're going to take this money from the government through this unemployment system and you're going to then turn it right back around and put it back into the economy. Now, I know that not everybody can do that. Some people are living on that $600 a week, feeding their family on
Even
it.
if they're feeding their family, they're still putting it back in, though, which is good.
Yes, but they don't have the luxury of putting
Right.
it into their business in the way that I can because I happen to have a spouse.
Right. Or have the luxury to not put it into a need, right? Like rent,
Correct.
mortgage, food.
So I don't want to sound like this middle-aged, privileged woman that had a housewife with a hobby. I mean, my business is real, but because I happen to have a very supportive system here, we're able to, my spouse and I say, okay, we're going to put it back into your business and we're going to spend it locally. And we're going to make sure we're helping another provider of services stay in business.
Yeah, keep moving forward.
Yeah. So I am beyond grateful that I've been able to do that. And that's meant everything because those pieces, like you said, Jarrett, where I wouldn't know how to do them myself, being able to put the ego down and say, I don't know and I need help, and getting the right help is actually going to help me set my business up for the fall.
You know, there's just only so many hours in the day.
Right.
And there's I think I saw a coffee mug that said like Beyonce also has 24 hours in the day. And I'm just like, that's bullshit. Like, I hate that.
She's got handlers.
She doesn't cook her meals.
Right.
Like, if I'm Beyonce, I don't cook my meals. I have whatever chef I want.
Right. You don't clean your house.
I'm not doing my laundry.
No.
I don't. Because I start to think about the things, you know. So I think about that a lot, because the way that we decide to invest in our time dictates what we get out on the other end. So instead of you trying to figure out how to build a website, you come to me and then we work together. Instead of you figuring out, you know, how to schedule things with a virtual assistant, Courtney provides you so many services that what you're doing is, you know, they say you can't buy time. Well, I think that's a lie. You can buy time.
You can.
If you're strategic about it.
Be strategic about it. You had recommended a book to me, The E-Myth.
Yeah.
You know, and that book does say a lot of this.
Because the E-Myth, there's the book, I think it's page 144 or 124, because I literally looked at, I have an image of that. But the E-Myth is a really powerful book if you're listening to this and you're a small business owner or an entrepreneur. But one of the most powerful things is this visual diagram of the breakdown of a business. It's like the C-suite, the board's above that, the president, the managers are below that, the employees, and it says when you start your business, you want to put your names in all those boxes. And then it's up to you to go through and start to take out your name and put someone else's name, because that's the only way long term to make a business survive. And that's what you're doing.
That's exactly what I'm doing.
I need marketing and strategy, Angelica, right? I need virtual assistant. I need an assistant to help literally organize my life. You know, I have Courtney. I need help with my web presence. I have Jarrett. Courtney's also helping me with some of my social media content.
Invaluable.
Because I see people all the time, and this is also me, I'm projecting, I do this too. Sometimes I try to take too much on.
Yes.
And I realize, yeah, it took me 3 hours to do this thing. How much is my hour worth?
When you cost-benefit analysis,
when you look at how much an hour is worth,
right,
depending on how much you value an hour. And I saw a video, and it was definitely a clickbait, and I clicked it. But it was like, you're spending, you know, you're mowing your lawn is $500. Why? Because if you want to be a millionaire, if you want to get paid $1 million, that's $500 an hour. So when you on a Saturday go mow your lawn, you're losing $500.
Yes.
If it takes you an hour, which I thought was fascinating, interesting way to look at money. It's like, or you go hire the middle school kid next door.
Yep.
He'll do it, and you pay him $20.
And he's a star, and you've saved.
Yeah. Yep. You just made $480
back.
So that idea of bringing other people on board to make your A-team, I think, is what everyone's doing. And communication is so key, because what you said is so important about a jacket to you is different from a jacket to me.
Right.
And I think communication is something that people often take for granted. Oh, I speak and I listen.
But people don't. Or they half listen.
People don't. They half listen. And this is the thing, too. And I actually don't know, I haven't looked on LinkedIn, so I'll look on LinkedIn before I say this. But I do know that on LinkedIn, something that is like a great skill to have, where people can go love on you for having it, is public speaking, right? But what I want to see is
public listening, or active listening.
But public listening, too.
Yeah.
Because if you're in a seminar for 3 hours on Zoom, and I know after 2 hours, dude, I'm done. That last hour,
it's very tough.
I'm on mute and I'm just staring at the screen.
It's very tough.
And those who are active listeners or can listen and gain and then make sure they're asking the right questions, that's the future.
You know, the E-Myth was a great book, and I was already, a year and a half into my business. So it's not like I decided to take my Instagram account and turn it over to Courtney, a perfect stranger, right out of the box. I mean, I'd been working that Instagram account for, almost 3 years, and I knew I wasn't doing it well. I knew I wasn't doing it right. I was bootstrapping my little company, so I didn't have the funds. So this opportunity with some funds from the government to say, this is definitely an area I'm not good enough in, but I know enough that I can guide Courtney so that we can be sure I'm still feeling like it's my account and we're giving the right messaging out.
And that's really important. You know enough to say, Courtney, this is what I want, and then she'll do the execution.
Exactly.
'Cause sometimes when people hire, they don't give enough direction.
Right.
They just expect somebody will know what to do. Because
like a mind reader.
But it's so much better, like when we did your website, you said this is really what I want, and we found it. We had to tweak it a little bit, obviously, but you had an idea of kind of what you were looking for as far as the aesthetic cleanliness of the website, the simplicity.
And to bring that back to my business model, I think most people, couple of things, when they hear a stylist or a wardrobe coach or an image consultant, they go, oh my God, I'm not in Hollywood. I'm not on TV. I'm not a public speaker. I'm not a politician. Why would I hire somebody? That's too highfalutin. So I'm trying to, use those words because at least people know what that is. I have to be identifiable, but I am not a typical stylist. I'm not a personal shopper. I can do that, and if that is what you need, but that's not the core of my business. My core thing is enabling you to figure out what your style is, coaching you so you create the closet that works for you. I don't live your life. I'm not in your body. I don't run your business. So I ask a lot of questions about those activities, and I ask the right questions, and we get at the core of what you need to be able to wear to be comfortable, have agency, get dressed quick, save money, save time, and all of that usually exists right in your very own closet. So within the realm of stylist, image consultant, that whole body of work, my work is very unique. So it's been like I've had to double educate people.
Yeah, that's a lot of work that you have to do.
It's a lot of work.
Albert Einstein apparently always wore the same thing because he didn't want to have decision fatigue. Steve Jobs,
exactly.
That's why he's like, no, I'm just going to wear this, this, and this, and I get up and I go out the door. And I can say I went to the prep for high school. So it was a Catholic all-guys school. I literally wore the same thing every day. Khakis, a button down. I didn't care. Like I threw it on.
And there's something freeing in that.
There's something so free when you have your wardrobe set up.
Yes.
So that way it's not even like a pause in your day. You get dressed and then you go out and you're already feeling confident. Or there's not confidence being taken away from you.
Right.
Oh, I don't know. I think I look different in this. I don't like the way it looks or something. And then maybe I won't do as well today because I'm not as confident in myself because this. And we've all done that. I don't care.
Oh,
if you're listening to this podcast, because your wardrobe is essentially a haircut. And we've all had a bad haircut. There's not a person listening who's not like left the shop and been like, well, I got to wait 2 weeks so I don't look stupid.
Right.
Or I look like better when I look in the mirror.
There's a psychology behind it that I haven't delved deeply into because I just was introduced to this concept about a month ago called clothes cognition. And it's saying...
Clothes cognition.
Yeah, the way that you clothe yourself gives you a sense from a psychological standpoint of having agency, of being in your power, and then moving into your whatever your work is or your life's work or your passion, because the clothes aren't running you. You're running your life.
That's an idea that is very powerful.
Yes.
You can insert anything in that sentence. And I had a recent episode I put up where I talk about how you either run your money or your money runs you. You either run your clothes or your clothes run you. And if we go even further, you run your reality, or the reality runs you. And when we look at clothing, it's like, I'm just shocked, and it's hard for me sometimes to be super empathetic with people about clothing because I'm an ethical clothing advocate, 110% since Imperador, and since I delved into that, my mother raised me on secondhand clothes.
Yep.
And I think we were economically well off enough to be able to not, but it was like, why am I going to buy my son a t-shirt? He's going to go destroy it anyway at summer camp. We're just going to go get him a secondhand shirt that's like, Steve's dodgeball tournament, 2001. You know what I mean? So my relationship with clothes is definitely different, but I have other friends who I know they spend a lot of money on clothes. Well, and it's directly tied, unfortunately. It's tied to the way they feel about themselves.
But it's also tied to your profession. Like the lawyer said to me, this was so key. When she's in front of the jury pool and the judge on behalf of her client, she has to look a certain way so that they are listening to her words and not getting all caught up in some outfit she has on, and then her client isn't getting a fair shake, which sounds so crazy, but...
It doesn't sound crazy. I mean...
the jury pool's in an observing mode, a listening mode.
The jury's taking everything into account. Yes. And it's not crazy because we live in a world that is sexist, period. Right? That's why when Hillary Clinton got so much flack for everything she wore, and never before had a male president in all of the years of this country ever received so much flack running up to an election cycle about what he wore. you know? And she literally, unless I'm wrong, she tried to become more masculine. She wore different suits. She went away from certain colors. She cut her hair shorter to try to deflect from these things.
Which, it's problematic. We could have a whole podcast.
It's so problematic
on that.
But clothing is...
It's very much a part of...
It's unfortunate that, for me, it's unfortunate that society would make people feel a certain way by the clothes that they wear. Obviously, I think the lawyer is a super good example.
Or a realtor. I have a lot of real estate women, and this is going to sound judgmental, and I don't mean it to be, but I've had to say to the women, listen, you're expecting someone to spend a lot of money on this home, and it's probably their biggest purchase, and you owe it to them creating that trust and that bond and that safety, like you're making the right decision. You can't look like you're the gardener. You can't look like you just came out of cultivating the garden of this $1.2 million piece of property on Marblehead Neck. I mean, it just like common sense.
Yeah.
You're asking someone to trust you with the largest purchase of their life. You need to not be in a Gucci suit. You don't need a Rolex watch, but you need to have...
You don't need to look like Cardi B.
But you need to be like, they need to know on some subconscious level, I can trust this person. This person's going to help me make this very big purchase.
What does that look like? Because this is so interesting to me. Because for me, I feel like, once again, I'm a little bit different from the average person. So for me, what someone wears never tells me anything about them. Because, and I say this, because there are kids walking around Boston, men and women, or non-gender conforming, who are wearing hoodies, and they're wearing sweatshirts, and they're wearing Chucks, just like I have on here. And they probably work at a tech company, and maybe they write code, and they make a cool $200,000 a year.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And then there's also people who would wear a suit and a tie, but maybe they're making $40,000.
Right.
You know what I mean? So like what? So but
it's
real estate,
situational, Jarrett.
It's contextual. It's contextual.
When
but real estate is
when you walk into Symphony Hall, you should be dressed up a little bit for the respect of the institution, the people making the music, the history, just in the same way when you go to pay your respects to someone, God forbid, at a Shiva or a wake service, don't come in there in a hoodie and jeans. Like, it's situational appropriateness. This, again, doesn't mean that you're going to go to the wake with a brand new $1,000 suit on that you just bought, but like...
A starch-pressed Gucci something.
Like, put on a pair of dressier pants, a button-down shirt, maybe a jacket. Like, you're there to pay your respects to someone's life.
Yeah.
So I think it's situational, and I don't want to make rules about this, but we've relaxed our culture so much in the U.S. that we now have no appropriateness to the magnitude of certain circumstances.
That's a really good way of putting it with the wake, because you're totally right.
Yeah, when you're going to a wake, you're paying respects to that person's entire life. Spend a moment to ready yourself for that.
And I think the last time I wore a suit in my recent memory
was probably one of those.
I went to a wake. I went to say, pay my respects. And that's a really good way of putting it. And I think that builds for me the context to understand better. Because,
Jarrett, if you're walking in for a dental implant, do you want the dentist to look like he's got it going on and he's got his wits about him, or look like some guy that just rolled in off the surf?
So once again, you're asking the wrong person. Because for me, I'm just about value. I step away from that. But with the home buying, that is super interesting, because I like riding my bike now a lot, and I went through Marblehead Neck. Marblehead Neck is one of the most, crazy homes. You see homes, you're just like, you don't need that much space, but okay. And, it's like a different world. It's like going to see what Stepford Wives would look like, or something like that. Like those perfect niche neighborhoods. But I totally understand that, maybe you would, for that, in that context, I couldn't sell a $1.2 million home wearing what I'm wearing right now, which is board shorts, Chucks, and a t-shirt. It would be better if I had slacks. I just think it's interesting. And I know we've kind of gone off on a tangent, but somebody said it was the pajamification of the United States.
Yes.
And that is real. It's super real, because you go to other countries, and especially I spent a lot of time in Latin America, people will go to the movies and they're wearing pearls, high heels.
It's
hair
amazing.
is done. Makeup is Kardashians.
Yep.
And you go to the movies here, and people are literally wearing their pajamas.
We were in Italy, and we were staying in a small neighborhood of Rome, and we went on a food tour, and we went into a bakery. And there was a woman, she was obviously elderly, at what we would say the cash register, and she had on what looked like a tweed Chanel suit. It wasn't Chanel, but that look, that sort of matronly look. She had pearls on, her hair was done, she had makeup on, and I was sort of taken aback as an American. And I said to the tour guide, "Oh, what is that woman doing here?" And she's like, "That woman is the 5th generation proprietor of this establishment. She is 96 years old, and she comes to work at 5 a.m. every morning, and that's how she's dressed." And I was like, this is so cool, because of the respect she has for her customers, for her family heritage, for the business. She was 96, and she looked like she was about 75. That woman was amazing.
Where was this again? It was in Italy?
It was in Rome. A little like neighborhood in Rome that's very well known for its food. Yeah. We had gone on a food tour. I'm not even going to try to pronounce the little place, but it was so striking, and I was like, oh my gosh. Just the level of respect she has for her business, for her family name, 5 generations in this bakery, and for her product that she's selling her clients. She is looking like she is the proprietor of that establishment. Yeah, it was so impressive.
96 years old, still getting up at 5 a.m.
Yeah, it's amazing.
That's incentive for everyone out there who knows they need to get up earlier and do
Robert De Niro in that contemporary movie called The Intern, where he plays a retired
which is a great
man.
movie.
I love that movie.
Great
He's
movie.
Anne Hathaway's intern, and he turns. Sorry, that was a big chestnut.
Yeah,
falling.
we were outside. That was a huge nut of some sort falling.
He turns that whole office, all the young, bucks on their ears.
And you know what? I love that movie.
That movie is so great.
I saw that movie on a flight. I probably wouldn't have normally picked to watch that movie. But it was. I love the way it flipped with Anne Hathaway now being the devil. You know, like she was the intern. Like that was a nice play, whoever chose to produce that. The reason why I think he was so successful was he brought empathy, kindness, and patience.
And he wasn't judging anyone. He was just saying...
He was just calling it as it is.
Gee, maybe you might want to consider cutting your hair,
Yeah, and he would show up every day with his suit, and all the other people were wearing T-shirts because it was like a tech thing or something.
It was an amazing, fun movie, and people should watch it.
It's called The Intern?
The Intern, yeah.
It was a very
Robert
good
De Niro, Anne Hathaway, awesome. Just uplifting, and it gives you a perspective on some of the things I'm saying. Yeah. And I'll just bring it around to Zoom technology, the virtual spaces and places. When you're on Zoom with your family or your college sorority sisters or your kids, who cares what you look like? Enjoy. But then when you step into the platform for a business meeting, of which you are still getting paid for, and you're showing up in a yoga bra.
You've seen this.
I have seen this.
It's just someone in a yoga bra.
Right. And you're not in the yoga business.
Ooh.
You need to up level.
That's a power move.
Throw a poncho on, throw a little shawl on, throw on a little jacket. And I guess everybody pushed back on me about this. We're 5 months into this now. So for the first 3 months, I was saying nothing to anyone because the times were tough. People were getting their head around this. People had, wee ones to attend to. But now we've got to get back a little bit of our sense of we are working. When you show up for a work meeting.
This is a professional space, even if it's in your bedroom.
Right. And I... drop down a Zoom virtual background. Those are really easy to install if you have, not a great situation for your office. That takes 2 minutes. Drop down a very neutral background and throw on a little cardigan, a little jacket, a little sweat. I mean, I'm not saying get dressed up like you're in the boardroom, but come on, we can do better.
That's a really good tip, the Zoom backgrounds.
Yes,
I know
use those.
I've never used them because I normally sit in front of a white background and it works, and I backlight, so I'm lit up. That's a very, very good tip for Zoom, and I may use that moving forward. I'm
asking people, and I only work with women, so show up with the dignity and respect that your position is calling forward. show up and be present. Show up and be engaged. And part of that is how you're presenting yourself. It is a piece of the whole thing. And again, I'm not saying to come with full-on war paint like you're going clubbing. I'm not saying you have to have makeup on, hair done, but at least have the hair combed. At least put on something that represents that you're fully engaged in a work moment, that you are getting paid for.
Do you subscribe to the saying, like, don't dress for the job you want, just for the job you want, not the one you have?
Yeah.
And then so that still holds in Zoom.
Absolutely.
Zoom world.
So we're in the Zoom world now, and it is possible that your companies are going to be laying off, becoming smaller,
furloughing,
or
everything.
If everybody's working from home, maybe they're going to hire someone, I hate to say this, from a faraway land that will work for much cheaper. So you need to be on your A game, folks, and not coming from a place of fear. I never want people coming from a fear or scarcity mentality.
Right.
You need to come at it from being fully engaged, fully present, adding value, being your best self.
I think that's important because too many times I think we as humans, we make changes because of fear or the scarcity mentality, not from abundance and from, I'm doing this now because I know it's best for me. I know it's best for me tomorrow and the next day, not because I'm doing it, because if I don't, the fear of what could happen, And that's why I'm so impressed with how you've been able to pivot your business, because I've seen other people not want to pivot their business.
And let me talk
and just say, it will be over in 2 months.
Yeah.
It will be over. Oh, dude, by April, we're going to be good. Then it was August. Now it's, by October. Well, I think the newsflash is this is not going to go away for probably 2 to 3 years. So and then once we sit and we're okay with it, saying, okay, in 2 years, it's not going to go over in 2 years, then 2 weeks from now, we're good. A month from now, we're already in a different mental space.
And to Jarrett's point, I clearly need to, at times, assist my clients with purchases because there's something key missing. Or if they could buy 2 or 3 things, everything else would work together. So I don't want to suggest we never buy anything. Then we go and we try to source where to buy that. And so obviously the first place I want to source it is local. Even if it might not be 100% sustainable, at least it's local. So I'm always trying to figure out where can we get what you need locally. Let's keep somebody in business. So I'm going out to small shops and vendors, and they're all like waiting for the normal to come back. And I'm saying to them, but it's probably not going to come back for a while, as you're saying, Jarrett. So you got to plan on what to do now. And if you don't use that strategy, you can at least have it in your back pocket. So nobody out there in these small stores have a plan B, and then they're starting to close. I'm starting to see a lot of the stores that I would normally tap into have to close.
There's just been a lot of local business closings anyway in Beverly, where we both spent a lot of time.
And we don't want to say that they're all closing because the proprietor wouldn't change. I don't want to make a broad statement like that.
Industries are just being wiped out. It doesn't matter.
But I spend a lot of time up in Gloucester and Rockport because I also like artisan goods. So if we're going to buy something, let's buy it from an artisan.
Yeah.
And, they're all waiting for the season. They were all waiting to open up for the season. And I'm like, well, even if we open up for some part of the summer season, who's coming? If they come, are they even going to be able to spend money? You got to get online. You've got to put yourself online. You have to have a way that consumers can shop your store virtually. And people didn't want it.
If you can sell stuff online, once you start doing it, you're going to be like, wow, I don't have to pay the utilities on a place. I don't have to sign a lease. I don't have to pay that rent.
Or if you still want to maintain your brick and mortar, at least you've got this other revenue flow.
You've got a plan B.
You've got the plan B. So the resistance among people my age to even talk about a plan B has been very disheartening. I've tried to help people. I've got some resources. I've tried to partner with people. They're just not ready yet. They're not in that space. They're not ready to admit.
Once you know something that you need to change, right, especially as a business owner, the best time to change was yesterday. The second best time is today.
Yep.
And by doing it tomorrow, it's never going to happen. there's things I know you have on your plate, I have on my plate that I need to do. I'm like, oh, tomorrow. But I just think of like the restaurant or the bar that has the like free beer tomorrow sign because it's obviously you're never going to get free beer. And that's kind of the way things are moving forward with small businesses.
Like, shout out to Ledger Restaurant in Salem.
Yeah.
I don't know the owner, but I have a tremendous amount of respect for him. He turned his high-end restaurant into a small version of a grocery store during the early times of COVID. And he was obviously using his supply chain that was still active. So you couldn't get everything there, but you could get a lot of cool staples, pantry staples and items. And you would get online. He had a portal and you'd make your order and then you would go. It was a contactless, you just
pick up.
Yeah, you just drive up, you text them. They have the Lisa bag. They run it out to you. And then they started integrating some cool takeout meals into that as well. They had like a bucket of fried chicken that was amazing. Did I need that bucket? No. Did I do that bucket several weeks in a row? Yes.
It must have been good.
Oh, it was really good.
The Ledger's good. The Ledger, I've eaten there a couple times.
So he pivoted. He totally made himself. He kind of had a riff on the Market Basket logo when he called it Ledger Basket. So people could immediately understand, oh my God, is he like the grocer? And at those early weeks, you couldn't get certain grocery items.
Right.
He was able to even give like some toilet paper and stuff because his supply chain, he still had some supply.
Still had some great connections.
Yeah, so that was really fun to watch how he did it. I can't really tell his story well, but
that's full circle because we started talking about how the global supply chain is broken, therefore clothing has been affected, this fast fashion, this fascination with the 52 weeks,
right,
all the way up to, hey, we need to be local. And I think that's where the conversation is going, not just in fashion, but also in food and everything else. We have to figure out ways to do things locally. We cannot rely on X country to be able to get it, even if that means we're going to have to spend more money.
Yes, and I think, I grew up in a very different time, and I grew up in an immigrant neighborhood in Newton, Massachusetts called Nonantum. And everyone that lived there was loosely related because they had all come from the same two villages in Italy. It's like a very interesting thing. This was in the 50s and 60s. And we had Larry's Market. Everyone went to Larry's Market. That's where you got your food. We went to Magni Bakery, and you went and got your fresh baked goods. They also owned a funeral home. That's where everyone ended up. I mean, it was like, it's laughable now, but we all spent our dollars within the neighborhood, and it was very tight. And of course, immigrants were treated not well then. Oh, kind of like today. So, I was bullied in school for being Italian American. I mean, I could go on and on. That's a whole other podcast. But we all had that ability to spend our money first in the community. And then, of course, there were things you needed. You had to go to the market for, the larger market, or,
I unfortunately think that's just gone. That mentality of shop local first, and then if you can't find it, then we'll step out and do a different thing. I have so many friends that live on Amazon Prime.
Oh, I know. I've had to use it myself. But no. But, Jarrett, when I go to the local whatever store and they can't figure out how to accommodate during COVID, then you want to support them. But when they're clueless and they don't want to change, you are forced almost to go to an Amazon Prime situation. Which is so unfortunate.
It is. I think shopping local is one of the biggest. I was talking about yesterday, shopping local and traveling local are going to be the new things.
Yes.
And what I mean is, like, there are places in Salem, Beverly, Gloucester, Rockport that I've never been to, restaurants.
Yes.
And little, like, outdoor things. And normally when we get time off, it's like, all right, Lisa, where do you want to go? Let's go to the Mediterranean. Let's go to South America. Let's go to Asia. But it's like, we need to now not only invest our dollars.
We need to discover our own.
We need to discover our own backyard.
Backyards, our own communities, our own treasures. There are treasures on the North Shore of Boston. And a lot of them are outdoor. We have the Trustees. We have open land. We have Mass Audubon up here. I mean, that's just for if you want to get out. That's not buying things.
But you're totally right. And this goes full circle now. You have gems in your closet.
Yeah.
You just need to go rediscover them.
Right. So to just give myself a plug,
Well, this is good.
Because this, I'm here.
Where can we find you?
Lastwardrobe.com is the website.
Right. LASSWARDROBE, lastwardrobe.com.
On Instagram, you can find me. It's Lass, LASS _stylist. And really, when I work with my people, Jarrett, it's about me helping them we co-create. I'm not giving them a new wardrobe. I'm not remaking them. There's nothing wrong with them. We're just co-creating a new way of them dressing with ease right from their closet, from the things they've invested in that they're not using well, just because they don't know how to style them. I can give them new looks with what they already own. It's like shuffling up a deck of cards.
Right. And a different perspective is always helpful when it comes to fashion.
Yeah, and it's fun, and it means you buy much less. It means you get up and you get dressed in the morning with much more ease, because the only things in your closet now, after we refresh it, are the things that actually fit you, that you like, that we can style. And all the extraneous stuff gets... we never throw anything away. We send it to charities. We pick charities that we know can use those things. And then you're left with a closet that works. And there's no more stress. You have time for yoga now, meditation, a walk, more time to spend with your kids. Watch the news if you want to.
Yeah, and especially if the real estate, I think, is a super good example. Especially if you're still getting in front of an audience, because you can. Real estate was always able to continue because it was deemed an essential, or the lawyer, or someone else who still needs to. And the
new audience, the virtual audience.
The virtual audience, yeah.
Show up with agency in your new space, because this might be the only space you're showing up in for the next 6 or 8 months.
So if you're listening to this and you're stressed out about what you should wear on Zoom, please reach out. Talk to Lisa. You'll do a 30-minute
free consult, no obligation chat.
And see what it's all about. Well, Lisa, thank you.
This was awesome, Jarrett.
Thank you for having me and your outdoor patio.
Yeah, this is great.
One of the best spaces,
probably
on the North Shore. It's just so relaxing.
We're doing local musicians on my back porch. And just for, we have to be compliant with the governor. So just for a small amount of people in my neighborhood. So we're giving musicians a way to make a little bit of money and practice and get out. And we're giving my neighborhood some really joyful music. Jarrett will be at the next one.
I will be. I'll be there. Well, thank you, Lisa.
Thanks.
Please follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Wifi Water Podcast, and reach out to us if you'd like to be a guest or have an idea for a future episode.